Hello, welcome back to another Theory Thursday. Today we are doing a chord analysis of one of my favorite tunes. We've played it a couple times on this channel, actually. But beautiful. That's what we're doing today. So I've got my Seiko SNKL on today. My first ever automatic watch. No batteries needed. It just fascinates me. Black tie on, as always. If you've been enjoying the tune videos, theory videos, just the music videos, any of it, a like and subscribe is always appreciated. Of course, not necessary. Just keeps the channel going and the community growing. So, without further ado, chord analysis, but beautiful. Let's go. Here we are, but beautiful chord analysis. So, what key are we in? That's always the first step, right? Now, this says we're either in G or E minor. We'll take a look. First chord is G. Last chord is G. I'm going to take a guess and say we're in G major. So let's go with that. So we've got a 1 chord. Now, this is a cool little section here. This chord obviously has a G sharp in it, so that's not in the key. But take a look at where we're going. We're going to this 2 chord. And this just so happens to be a 2-5 to A minor. So that's how we'll write it. We'll do 2 half diminished of 2. And, oops, come on. There we go. And a 5 of 2. And then we finally get our 2 chord. Okay, let's keep rolling. Now, this is a cool little bait and switch thing here. This is our 1 chord, obviously. But this is obviously outside of the key. What's going on here? Well, it's a little deceptive cadence. We start with our 1 chord. We get our 2 chord. And this is actually a 2-5-1 to our 3 chord of B minor. Now, we don't get it. We get a G major instead, which the 1 and 3 chord are very closely related. You can pretty much swap them out whenever you want, a deceptive cadence. So that's what this is. It's a 2 of 3 and a 5 of 3. We don't get our 3. We got our 1 chord, but that's okay. We'll keep going here. And this is almost our 3, but we've got an F natural here, so it's outside of the key. This is just same thing we saw up here. 2 of 2 and 5 of 2. And then we don't get our regular 2 chord. We get a major 2 chord, also known as 5 of 5. Great way to get to the dominant, which is exactly what we do here. Okay, so it's a secondary dominant to our dominant. A little stepwise motion here. D in the bass, C in the bass, down to B in the bass. So it's, same chord, just different thing in the bass. Purpose doesn't change. This is probably the most popular run in jazz here. 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. Beautiful chord progression. Beautiful chord progression. Okay, we'll keep going. Another 6. Now this is our major 2, like I said, which is basically a 5 of 5. Not basically, it is. It's a secondary dominant. Now this is a cool transition here. So this is obviously our 5 chord. So what happens in between our secondary dominant and our dominant? I kind of think of this as a D sus. That's kind of how you see this all the time in jazz. This chord right here. But let's lay this out first. What's in an A minor chord? Let me switch colors here. A, C, E, G. Okay, now we're putting a D in the bass. So that's our chord. Now that's not too far off from D, F sharp, A, C, E, right? That would be a D9 chord, dominant, right? But they have this G here instead of this F. Take the third away and replace it with the fourth. So that's kind of why you could also call this just a D7 sus4. So just a couple ways to think about it. So you could call this a 5 sus, or you could just call this a 2/5. It's hard to write the inversion because this D isn't in this chord, so you can't just write a like 2/6, which would be first inversion. So we're gonna go the easy route and just call this a 5 sus chord. So that's that. Okay, and then it repeats. Back to the beginning. We go through the whole hullabaloo again up until here. That's our first ending. So instead of doing that, we'll go to the second ending. Oops. I just changed songs. Oh, go back. There we go. Fix this. Okay. And I think I had this marked out. That's for me playing, not for our analysis. Okay. So same thing as the first ending. We have a 5 of 5. We have our 5 chord. This is still a 5 chord, so I'm not going to change anything on it. It's just it's the inversion of it, which gives us that nice bass motion from D down to C, down to B, of course, which is our 3, 6, 2. Now, we don't get our 5 here. We get something that's outside of the key, and let me actually erase this one more time. I don't play that when I'm playing the tune. I just take this B and put it here because it serves the same purpose. Because take a look at where we're going. We're going to this E minor chord. So this is actually just a 2 of 6 and a 5 of 6. So 2-5-1 to E minor. Okay, which is our 6th chord. So when it comes to, 2-5-1s and where you're trying to get to, and if you don't have time to play both chords, I always opt to play the 5. I think that's the most important chord. I don't think you can overstate the importance of the 5 chord. Even just the interval of a 5th in Western music, I think cannot be overstated. So anyway, that's what this is. It's a 2-5-1 to E minor. And then what do we have here? We have a couple ways you could think about this. This isn't in the key, right? We call this a backdoor dominant. Okay? So if you're trying to get to a chord, instead of playing like we would usually put a 5 of, you wouldn't write 5 of 1, you just write 5. Secondary dominant. You can take the flat 7 of wherever you're trying to get to. So in this case, we're in G. So instead of putting a D7 here, they put this F7 here. So why does that work? Well, let's look at it. So what's in an F chord? F, A, C, E, flat. Okay? That's an F7 chord. So how is that different than D, F sharp, A, C, And honestly, you could make it a flat 9. So what's different here? Just our bass notes. I mean, everything else is... So that's why it works. That's why it functions as a dominant chord, as the 5 chord. But we call that a backdoor dominant because it's just a whole step below wherever you're trying to get to. So backdoor dominant, acting as a D7. Okay, and now we have this cool little walk down here. 3 chord. Bass goes down to B flat, goes down to A, which, let's come back to this, because this part's easy. This is a 2, 5, 1. And then, of course, our regular 2, 5. Okay, so what's going on here? Well, you know our regular jazz progression would be 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. We don't get our 6th chord here. We get a B flat 7. So why does that work? This is what we call a tritone sub. Okay, so take a look at where we're going. We're going to this 2 chord. What's the 5 of this 2 chord? It would be, it'd be an E7. So similar to the backdoor dominant, you can sub out a dominant chord with its tritone substitution. So just as a reminder, a tritone is a flat 5th away, or you could think of it as a sharp 4th. Okay, so the easy way to do this is what's the 5 of E7? Well, it'd be B. You flat that, and you get a B flat. Okay, so that means that a B flat dominant chord is the tritone substitution for an E7 chord. Now, why does that work? Well, similar to the backdoor dominant, it pretty much just comes down to bass notes. So let's look at this. B flat, D, F, right? Okay. So let's take a look here. What's similar? D and D, G sharp and A flat are the same. Okay. So the 3rd and the 7 of the chords are the same. And as we know, the 3rd and the 7th are what we call shell voicings, because that's all we really need to create the sound we want from a chord. Why is that? Because the 3rd is important because it determines if something is major or minor. The 7 is important because it determines if something is a dominant or not. So if you get those 2 notes, I mean, you can kind of get wherever you need to get. So tritone sub. And that's what we have there. That's the tune. I don't know why I circled these up here. That's weird. I don't remember that. 1, 2. Okay, that's the tune. But beautiful. Jimmy Van Heusen, Johnny Burke. Lovely tune. A lot of 2-5-1s. We have 2 instances of the 3-6-2-5-1. One of the most popular progressions in jazz. And then a couple different variations. We have of the dominant chord. We have our backdoor dominant down here. We have our tritone sub right here. We also have a 5 sus chord right here. There's a lot of cool stuff in this tune. So hopefully you had a good time and learned something. And if not, hopefully it was fun to listen to. And we'll see you for the next one.